This is Ryan again, and we're going to be walking through the second assignment, which is music production and arranging. And so you're going to be creating a composition, and for some folks this will be pretty straightforward, something you do. For others, this is going to be difficult. It should be somewhat difficult for everyone because it's always interesting and fun and difficult to do a creative process. And I'm going to walk through my process. I have not done this. It's not pre-scripted as far as the composition on my end. So you'll see that process, but you may, once we get to a certain point after setup, want to jump ahead in the video. Here, once again, is the assignment. Feel free to grab a screenshot of that. This YouTube link here looks specifically at various grid resolution and grid absolute mode versus relative mode, which is really important. I will mention it in the video, but this one does a nice job. And here is the rubric for this same assignment. Okay, here we go. Into Pro Tools, and we're going to start a new session. We're going to save it into our location. If you know your file path, great. And we will, this is the part that's kind of cut off in the assignment. I apologize for that at this point. I'll try to get that updated. But we'll save it with the initials of the teacher, RB, the section, your last name, your first name, not your initials, please. And then the name of the assignment. Sample, mod, and composition. Sample mod is sample modification. So you're creating your own samples in this assignment. 44.1, 24-bit. Your I/O settings will be specific to your system. All right, we hit create. It'll ask us, well, it will pop us into an open menu window here, and we will want to import the files that are up on the canvas for you. And so those files you will have downloaded and know where they are. I'm going to navigate to them for where they are for me, which is definitely not where they are for you. Right there. And then always, in this case, hit convert. That's because our session is 44.1. These files are actually 48 kilohertz sample rate. So, yeah, these are a bunch of stuff. They're from, some of them at least, are from Make Pop Music, which is a really neat website, and they do a nice job of creating samples and walking through process of putting together different pop tracks and sounds and how to do a track in the style of, whatever, Billie Eilish or Ariana Grande or whatever. So worth checking out, Make Pop Music. And then convert and done. They should come in. We'll want them in our audio files folder, and we're going to put them on new tracks to start. One of the things that I mentioned was setting up the tempo. And in your track header here, you'll see the tempo is right 120. If we double click on this red arrow, we can pop that up to 130. Great. Zoom in, boom. And we've got some files here, and you can listen to them and check out what's going on. Nice. And I think I've got like some snaps. There's a kick sample in here. Just like a short 808 kick. Always add a master fader in stereo. And you should be able to switch between your edit window. I'm used to having these on two separate windows, but that's fine. And your mix window. Sorry, just looking at the assignment real quick. We're going to add bus 1 and 2 to the sends of each and every track, and 2 auxiliary tracks with a delay mono stereo on aux 1 and a reverb mono stereo on aux 2. You can add other sends if you'd like as well. So select all of your tracks in order to add the sends to all of your audio tracks specifically. Then holding down Shift and Option, click on your sends, and in this case, we'll go to bus 1, and that will apply it just to the audio tracks. Then click on the next send, in this case send C, and bus 2. And you could keep going, so you could set these up to be bus 3. You may also recall walking through setting up default track processors up here. And so I will do that real quick with the Pro Tools plugins that are appropriate. So a single band, which I will bypass, a channel strip, full channel strip here. Where is it? This channel strip. Yep, there it goes, which I won't bypass. And then I like to do another compressor just so I have it ready to go. Or an EQ. Sometimes an EQ, actually. We'll do that for this particular process. And then we'll do another compressor, which will just be this one. And I will bypass the compressor as well. So basically I'm ready to go with a full channel strip, which will be my primary tool, and this EQ, which I'm just more familiar with. Okay, great. Now we got to add our auxiliary tracks. We're going to add 2 mono auxiliary input tracks. 2 mono format auxiliary input tracks. The first one here will be called delay. And the second one, which you can go to by hitting Command right, will be called reverb. You can make these much more specific. And if you have 10 or 12 different, for example, I'll do it. I'll add 2 more auxiliary input tracks. So then let's say we have delay and reverb, and then we have verb long, and then we have crazy verb. So now I have 4 auxiliary tracks. If I select those 4 tracks, hold down Shift, Option, and Command, and go to the inputs, this will apply to the selected tracks. That's what Shift does. Only in those tracks, that's what Option does. And in a sequential order, that's what Command does. So the inputs will be bus 1 through 4. So I click on the first one, hit bus 1, and you'll see 1, 2, 3, and 4 across the inputs of my auxiliary tracks. Now, of course, we need the plugins. In this case, I have 2 reverb tracks here. You deselect by holding down Command and clicking. So if I select the 2 reverb tracks, hold down Shift and Option, I will apply a deverb plugin to those, mono to stereo. If I go to delay, I believe I asked for a mono to stereo on that one in the assignment. Delay mono to stereo, yep. Just making sure. Plugins, go to delay, mono to stereo. And then crazy verb, I'm going to do whatever I want on. So I'll put an EQ first, and then I'll do a delay, and then I'll do a reverb, and I don't know where this will end up or whether it will even get used. But I know I have a long reverb here, which I'll do as a plate. And then I have a shorter reverb here. I'll do as a small hall. And I'll put a little more pre-delay on the plate reverb. Boom. And let's check out this delay. I'll set this up. You could do a time delay, like a quarter note on one side, eighth note on the other side. You can play around with this, which is essentially an LFO, a low-frequency oscillator that's applied to that to make it sound a little more analog-y, I guess. It gives it some variation, a different timbre. And you can see those millisecond delays there as well. And then you have your amount of feedback. And in this case, I want to have my eighth note delay feedback a little more than my quarter note. Because the quarter note is slower in time, so you'll hear it more clearly. Like if they each fed back 6 times, the quarter note would last twice as long, so that'll be a more obvious delay. And now we're ready to go. Another thing I might come in and do is look at my mix views. Hold on. Expanded sends. Sorry. And just so I can see my sends, do like this, and I can see. Oh, well, of course I did the wrong one. But if you go to view, expanded sends, B, I can see B there, etc. Might be a faster way to do this. I don't want to see A. It's just taking up space. But my expanded sends B and C for how I have them set up. Now I can actually see the fader, so I don't have to keep clicking, then clicking this or something. I can just go in and set up a little bit of delay on various tracks. Now, next thing I like to do is get stuff organized. And once again, apply it to all by holding down Option. So if I hit Option and I go to the track view selector, I think that's what this is called, I can set these all to small and I can see what's going on in my thing. I'm going to have it set up in a more traditional format, which will be my kicks first, followed by snare type things, followed by cymbals, and then effects, at least to start. I might not end up at the same thing, but it's where I'll start. Cool. And as I mentioned, we're going to be creating new samples from these. So if we take something like this little kick right here, and we'll go to grid mode here. If you look at grid and you click there, hold it down, or if you hit Option 4 twice, you'll see it switching between blue and purple here. One is relative grid and one is absolute grid. Absolute grid brings up these grid lines, and now when you move a selection, the beginning of that selection will snap directly to those grid points. I cannot start this sample in between this line, which is the beginning of bar 5, and this line, which is beat 4 of bar 4. I can, however, up here in the top, change the grid resolution to a smaller resolution. For example, eighth notes would allow me to put it in the middle of bar 4, beat 4, and bar 5, beat 1. And 16th notes would allow me to get 1 degree finer in the resolution of that grid. But if I had this kick and what I really wanted was it to come in slightly early, this is where I would use relative grid over here in my modes. So now I have relative grid. Now if I move this, it maintains that anticipation of that grid point. So you can see I can't move this onto the grid now because its original location was slightly early. And the same stuff applies if I go to quarter notes. So now I could have a kick slightly early. Holding down Option will click and drag. Will copy any clip. And so you can see that across all of the kicks there. They're slightly ahead of the beat. Just Apple Z to undo that. So that can be quite helpful as well. We'll switch back to our absolute grid, and now I can put it directly on the beat. Boom, like that. Cool. So now we get to do fun things. So there's our kick. That's a crush kick. I want something with a little more pitch for my thing. So essentially, that's the assignment at this point. That's the setup for the assignment. Now you have to create a composition, and you have to create interesting samples. And there are a lot of ways to do that, but I'm going to talk less now and create more. What? I'll still talk some. Do I have Crush Me in here twice for some reason? Okay. I don't need that. Just get that. We'll just get rid of that one. I don't even know. All right, let's do this. I will talk to myself though. We'll just turn on shuffle mode here and just send this guy back to the beginning, I think. Cool. All right. So let's see. We got this kick here. Okay, that's a nice little thing. So I always want to keep a original sample, at least I do, on the timeline here. So what I'm going to do is take a copy of it and start to play around a little bit. So let's go up here to Audio Suites, and these are called Audio Suite plugins, and they will write new files. So if we come up here to Pitch Shift, I can go in and sort of check out what's going on with my this sample. So let's take it up, say, an octave, 12 semitones. That's our original. So that's something a little different. I like that one. It has like a pitch to it. That's not helping us. Now I could maybe and a low pass. So now I've got like a pitch, which I think could be pretty cool. It's got a lot of click on it. Oh yeah, there we go. All right. So I just created a new kick file, and that is the pitched one right there. So I now have a pitched kick file. Now what I'm going to do is take that and copy it a couple times, and I'm going to make each of these different pitches. You can do this with anything you want. You could take this walk right here, for example. Oh, I'm holding down Option and the grabber tool to make copies, right? And if you wanted to, you could also go in and start color coordinating all of your files, right? So if you know that this guy right here is going to be, your kick, you might, or your pitched sounds, you might start color coordinating all of these so that that's clear, whatever you feel on that. So now I have this one, and then I'm going to take the second one. It's almost like a chord now. Oh, you can't see what I'm doing. Ooh, I like this. Okay, so now I've got that. Sorry, I'm on a second screen here with the plugins, but render. Now I've got that one, and then this guy, I'm going to go down here. Cool. Cool. So now I've got, I'm just going to drag these over. Now I've got this and this, which are, oops, sorry. I don't know why it's going back to the beginning right now. What is it doing? Selecting all here and bringing down my fader so I stop smacking myself in the face with the level. Really likes that. Let's see. I mean, like right there, all of that could be our intro. That's kind of cool. There's our walk. That can obviously, and then here. Cool. Yeah, I like that. Now let's see if we go one step further. What can we do here? Don't like that. We're going to go back to our original here, which is this orange guy. We're going to make another copy. So I have this one. We'll come back to that in a second. I don't know. There we go. All right. So, All right, so I'm going to take this guy and right now I'm just creating new sounds. So I have now these 3 samples, which I will color just something different for the time being. There's no real direction because right now I'm just trying to create something cool. Then let's go to this guy. So we have our walk here, I think. All right, now it's whatever. We have our original walk in purple, and then I'm going to take that and I'm going to go to Audio Suites. I'm going to maybe do... Yeah, just play around for a second. Okay, let's do that. That's a cool little guy. Sound there. We'll make another copy, and we'll bring that. Let's go to our pitch shift, and I think I'm just gonna see. Let me hear our chords again. Bum, bum, bum. So I got those 3 pitches. I'm not digging this. Not digging this. Hold on. Let's go back here. This is the one I'm used to using. It's very, very simpler. More simple. So you got that. Bring our gain down a little bit. So if we took it and we were like something like that, but then we need those pitches. So da da da. I'm just matching the chord tones here. I don't know what those tones are, but you know. All right, so I have the original, then I go down a 5th, take the original over here, then da da da. Okay, and then take the original, copy it here. Da. Cool. And then what you can potentially do is, start to create stuff. So are these all the... Okay. So now if we look at our samples, the assignment only calls for 10 samples. And so I'm not going too crazy on how many samples I have here. This is the original. This one's new. So right there's 5. These are all copies. That's 5 new samples, and this is 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've already got 9 new samples. They're all pitch shift. Now let's try to play around with some other sounds here. So I'm going to take a little snap sample here, which sounds like this. Which stupid thing. Stop. Heard a little snap in there. So we have the snap sample, and I think, is that it? No. Cool. And we're going to take that snap sample, and we're going to do something cool with it, I think. Oop, no audio. Gotta Select the audio, preview it. Okay, cool. Trying to get it to have a little more. There we go. Wow. It's kind of neat. I should have copied the original where I could grab it faster. But that's okay. All right, that's kind of a cool one. Let's go with a delay. So I'm going to create a delayed sample here that we could. And one thing to note, when you're creating a sample in here, if you select beyond the time frame of that clip, or you select multiple clips, you can affect all of those together. So in this case, this will allow for that reverb, the feedback tail of this to be kept in that file. So now we have that. Yeah. Or we can go to a quarter note. I like both of those, so I think I'm going to create one and then create the other one. So here with this sample, I'll do this guy. That'll be my 8th note. It's kind of cool. Not too much. And then, so you see how that lines up, and you can see it in the sample there. And then this sample, we'll do a quarter note. Now, you can also reverse. Oh, also, I should mention, this is all 100% wet. So if I make it 100% dry, you just get the snap. Somehow I messed something up there. Hold on. So I've already got 10 samples done. Let's go in. Oh, because I see why. But so now it's just dry. Now it's dry with the wet. And now it's more and more wet. And you can reverse the whole sample also, but that can mess things up pretty quick. So something to be careful of. Boom. So now I've got that. Oh, looks like I cut off a little bit. Just make it a little longer. And hit render. We should be good. Boom. All right. So now I have things like this. And like that. And then you've got all these other cool files. Like this, clap, and a closed little hi-hat that's just like a little ticky thing. Oh, that's not a closed hi-hat. That's an open hi-hat. I don't know. It looks like I imported everything twice somehow. I'm not sure how I did that, but or whatever. Oh. It'll actually end up working out fine because I'll have a dry snap and a wet snap track. So this is going to be good. Then I have my kick. I'm going to start to create something cool here, I think. We'll see what happens. Clap. And we have this. So, all right. So I got this swell. I'm going to take that, move it to the beginning. And we're still in grid mode. In this case, I'm looking at quarter notes. That will change soon. But for now, we're just going to start to set things up. Here we go. Okay. zoom it on in here. And just going to bring these levels back up a little bit. Here we go. Cool. And once again, to do this, I'm holding down Option and dragging these. So let's just check these first bar out, see what happens. Okay. And a very common trait of modern music for the last 100 years or so is to put some sort of transient high frequency thing on the second beat and the fourth beat of a 4/4 bar. So you can see this is bar 1, beat 4. This dark line is bar 1, beat 2. And then to have your kick drums on 1 and 3. In this case, I have sort of a kick drum on, well, now I have it on 1, 2, 3, and 4. The hard kick here. And then under that, I have a softer 808 lower kick that has a little bit of a cooler part or something that will be a little different. It will add a little motion. So let's see what happens if we put this clap and the snap together with that kick. All right, and you can hear there's some small clips and stuff going on, but for now I'm going to ignore those. I'll come back to it. And I'm overloading my master, which I don't want, so we'll fix that as well. But if you start fixing everything right now while you're moving it, you keep making more things to fix all the time. It gets annoying. All right. Boom. So absolute grid, moved it over. It's lining up. Now, we'll turn off our solos. And you can hear it's going somewhere very aggressive, I guess. Your track, 130 is a great, this right there. That's a great tempo because you can half time it and it feels good. It's not too slow. Cool. So now we can take something like this hi-hat and we're going to build a pitch shift. So cool. Here. Okay, we'll get this guy. Then and so some of these effects you might start to recognize pretty quick. because they're in so much popular music because so many people are mixing using the same tools. And so people figure out how to do things, and that's great. And then we're going to and then we're going to grab our funky walk here, I think, and put that on the beat. Boom. So cool. And I've got some stuff that's not lined up on the beat yet. Boom. Cool. All of these high things, these are going to be pretty useful, I think. So what I'm going to do now is add something fun. I think stereo, it needs to be stereo. Okay. So I could insert Ableton as an instrument into Pro Tools, which is kind of a neat little trick, but yeah, we're not going to do that. No, I don't have the... Alright, that's not going to do it. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Stop. No, not that. These. So now I've probably got about 20 samples rolling, including those. This one, I think I'm going to do one more pitch shift up. Yep. So that whole shindig now goes like this. And then we can go like this. Take the whole thing, move it over, so it lines up a little cleaner. Then we can start to, because we're in grid mode, place things kind of wherever we want them. So, so if we want that, we're like, oh, that part's cool. Okay, then take that and put it. Is that it? So you can hit command and the left arrow, and it will play from like the beginning of the selected sample. Cool. So we're getting somewhere here. Down. Now let's just concentrate here on this beat part. Obviously too many claps. Lots of too many claps. But I want each one of my claps to be different. Alright, and now, because I'm going to copy this, I'm going to actually set up my little crossy fades and make sure that that's nice and clean. Like that. So now my kick drum, adjust the bounds, and bing. Cool. And so the point of an assignment like this is not to make an amazing composition. I hope you do that. But the real point is to get you editing, moving things around quickly, trying to figure out how to do the things. And if you work in a different DAW, sometimes that can be even more frustrating because you know how to do something in that program. But if you stick with it, Pro Tools will work very quickly to create interesting things, and ultimately is a program that you need to know for working in larger scale studios. And that's still an important part of that program is being able to work in large scale studios. So it's not designed for composition necessarily, and this assignment is basically designed for you to learn editing better. So as a composer myself, I totally understand that people have frustrations because they have to learn new things, but do it anyway. If you want to be a professional, you gotta learn to be a professional. It means not complaining. It means getting the work done. So what I'm doing in my head right now is singing little notes and lines that I think could work. So we'll just anything that comes up. Like, so if I'm in my head, I'm going ding, 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 ding. I'm going to add that in with this walk sample. Let's see, what does it actually sound like? Ding. So first off, I think this walk track is just like way too loud. I'm gonna bring that down. I know I'm still overloading my master. I haven't even started in on the mix process yet. That's that's what I'm looking for. Well, I want to check my chords actually. Let's go over here. Are the notes that I would like. Cool. Okay, so this will be our original, and this will be our first one. Boom. And then we'll take this guy. Boom. Boom. And boom. Boom. Cool. So now I've got those pitches, and one thing I think would be cool is to play around with this a little bit. So obviously this is like a swell to the next section or something. And you can change your time, what you view here, to minutes and seconds. So I can see I'm right now, here I'm at about 20 seconds. So this section is going to get pushed out. Then I'm going to have some sort of swell into a second section, and then an outro at the end. But I'm going to change up this swell a little bit. So right now, sounds like that. I've already used that. Now if I go to the time compression expansion tool here, I can stretch this guy and make it crazy. Cool. So that's how I'm going to get into my next section. Just occurred to me it'd be kind of cool. Now I'm going to finish up this little thing over here. Like that. So, so let's see. Well, I could actually potentially use my time compression expansion tool here as well. Shorten these. See if that does. Oh. Okay. See what goes. Cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna do that on each of these. It's gonna be kind of just make them shorter and tighter and weirder. Boom. All right. So now I got these little samples. Let me get out of that time compression expansion stuff. Go back to my grabber tool, and cool. Now we got to edit those into a cool pattern, and luckily we have grid mode, so we can do that. Don't need this. Need more screen real estate. Yeah. Boom, ba ba boom, boom, ba ba boom, 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 boom. So, boom, 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 boom. And I know I do that type of thing quite quickly. But just take your time, listen to them. So now I have that. I can take it like this and hit Command D and duplicate it. And because I'm in grid mode, they all line up perfect. Isn't that cool? So, boom. Then you can take that and check this out. So you take a track here. Oh, shoot, sorry. Duplicate that track. I can keep the active playlist, but what I'm going to do is get rid of that and then take all of this right here and check this out. Go to pitch shift. We'll take it all up an octave, which is 12 semitones. Hit that. And now I got a little thing going on. This got a little funky. Didn't do what I wanted to. We might have to go in and adjust each of those. Let's see. Let's go to this 12. Cool. And if you look, you can see it's not necessarily lining up perfectly. And some of that's okay, but I might go in and... Cool, that works. Alright, so now let's take it from the beginning. So maybe I'd take something. I have an extra kick up here. Alright. We'll grab these two. Sorry, using the wrong keyboard shortcut. you can take something like this one, do the same thing, I guess. And then yeah, cool. So now it comes out of this section. And okay, so that's cool. I'm probably gonna save this. Come back to it. Take this, and now we got to get our chords in here that we built so nicely earlier. I don't even know where I put them, but we'll duplicate another track. You could add another stereo track, whatever you want. Command like that. Add a stereo audio track. Boom. This will be chords. Always label tracks. And these, I think, are my 3 primary chords. I'm going to drag them down to my chords track there. Bring it over like this. Mm-hmm. From the top. Oh, we're going to delay that slightly. Bump, bump, bump. Something like that. Okay. Oh. I'm just going all out on this pitch shift. This is, I don't know, I'm just getting a lot of mileage out of it. Come on, come on. Stop. That's my issue. I'm clipping on that transient, unfortunately. So what I might do in this case is come in. Add a little fade. Now, here's a place where you want to switch quickly into slip mode. Add your fade. Like that. Then, oh, wrong. I consolidated it with Shift Option 3. And, cool. And now let's see if we still get the same. Yeah. So that's at the end. No, we can do the same thing. So I'm putting in a fade at the end of this thing. Boom. Now I'm selecting that. I'm hitting Shift Option 3, which consolidates that into one file. Oh, something's still being weird, but that's okay. Okay. And then I'm going to take that and just move it here. I'm not in grid mode anymore, so I can slip this anywhere. We'll go back to grid mode, and then let's check out what we got. So, oops, just added a location marker, which is fine. We can just call this section 1. Cool. So we have something like that, and if we just take all of this, once again, just duplicate, and we have that whole thing. So now, from the top, we have our intro. Right, and then we'll do it again, and then we'll go into our other section, which will be a halftime thing, and then we'll create an outro. So very quickly, using some basic functions, we are getting to a point where we can start to have a mix and start to have a composition. And none of this has been music theory. I haven't touched a MIDI keyboard or a controller or anything like that to make it happen. So I'll come back, show you the ending, and we'll